When you find your path, you must not be afraid. You need to have sufficient courage to make mistakes. Disappointment, defeat, and despair are the tools that God uses to show us the way. What is going on? Happy Thursday morning if you're listening to the podcast version of this. Happy Thursday evening if you're watching the YouTube version of this. Regardless of what platform you are on, if you're listening to the podcast, rate this 5 stars, leave a little review. And if you're watching the YouTube version of this, like, comment, and subscribe. And at the end of this, if you like the message, if you like the thing that I talk about today, then make sure you share this with a friend. But with all that being said, welcome to the Risen Fallen Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hendrickson, as always. And if you're brand new to this show, then what you can expect is open and authentic conversations about things like mental health and self-development and how to get your life moving in the right direction. Even if you feel like you're not where you want to be right now, at least having the confidence, knowing that you're moving closer and closer, one step closer to that every single day. And if you're not new to this, if you're a returning listener, if you're a returning viewer, I just want to say thank you for coming back and supporting the journey, supporting the movement, and supporting the show. Whether you are brand new to this or not, you are the reason that I do what I do. Yes, you right now, listening to this or watching this, just really supporting the movement that, we're all trying to make ourselves at least 1% better every single day, 1% smarter, 1% stronger, and along the way, hopefully making ourselves strong enough that we can lift others up along the way. So that's the movement of this whole show. If you're about that, if you're down with that shit, then you're going to enjoy this show. So let's take a second before we jump into it. I'm going to take a little sip of my coffee. We're all going to take a second right now to take a breath, take a sip, and just focus ourselves on the idea of allowing ourselves the grace to make mistakes, because that's what I'm going to chat about today. So let's take a second right now. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee right here, and you can take a sip of whatever you got in front of you. If you got nothing in front of you, take a breath right now, and let's focus. Let's focus. All right, here we go. So, one of the things that's been on my mind this morning, I kind of journaled about it this morning, and I was really meditating on this thought as I was running and just kind of thinking and reviewing my life. I've really, I noticed that when I make mistakes in my life, we were talking yesterday about, on Monday, we were talking about different jobs that I've worked, different jobs that you've worked, different decisions that we made in our life, maybe partners that we've had, maybe hobbies that we've had, maybe fitness routines that we've had. I think that a lot of us, when we make decisions and we find out that, hey, you know what, maybe that decision wasn't the best one for me, a lot of the times we course correct with the future decisions that we make by doing the exact polar opposite of what we had done before. I've done this in many different ways in my life. I've done this with the jobs that I've had, working, I've worked in a store, and then I realized, I wanted to work in a restaurant. Then after doing all those things, I think, okay, I want to work a blue-collar job. I start doing some labor. After doing that and deciding that wasn't right for me, I started doing an office job. After deciding that wasn't for me, I wanted to be self-employed and doing online businesses. And after realizing that wasn't for me, I've kind of just jumped from industry to industry. And I know a lot of people do this with their partners as well, where they kind of, they break up with somebody or they get broken up with, and they think, that wasn't what I want. I want the exact opposite of that. And I feel like as human beings, I feel like that's one of the things that we do so often is, we find uncomfortability, or we don't feel safe, or we don't feel like our we're being appreciated, or whatever it could be, that negative feeling, and we connect it to a certain situation, a certain person, a certain job, and we think, okay, that wasn't for me. I want the exact polar opposite. And I think that that's something that is natural for us. I think that does keep us safe a lot of the times, but it also does not allow us to grow sometimes because we're avoiding what makes us uncomfortable. That being said, I think that we should give ourselves the grace and the understanding that that's how we kind of find a balance. That's how we find what's referred to as like homeostasis, is just kind of, we find something that we don't like, we course correct to the exact polar opposite, and then we find something we don't like about that, and we course correct to mostly the opposite, and then from there we go somewhat opposite, and then from there we start to channel in and we focus. So you could picture it as like going a hard left turn, a hard right turn, a soft left turn, a soft right turn, until you find the road in the middle, and realizing that, okay, maybe it's not always the thing that is upsetting me. Maybe it's partly what's in the middle, which is me. And then we start to kind of hone in on maybe how to develop ourselves such that no matter where we are, we're finding somewhat some fulfillment, some joy, some appreciation, some gratitude, and really just course correcting from there. And I think that a lot of us, we fear making mistakes. We're so afraid of making mistakes that we don't allow ourselves this grace to just go out and, hey, I have this experience, and then realize, oh, I don't like that. So maybe I don't want to make any experiences so that I don't encounter bad experiences. I think that a lot of the times, this can be, one of the things that we do. We try and course correct and say like, hey, I had this bad experience. I see this person have a bad experience, whatever, with like children. And then we decide, oh, I never want to have children. We have a bad experience with a partner, and we think, I'm just going to be single forever. We do these things to try and protect ourselves. And by doing so, we don't allow ourselves to experience all the joys of life. I think that a lot of the times we spend so much time trying to avoid the negative experiences, the things that made us anxious in the past, the things that brought us trauma, the things that, made us uncomfortable, or the things that hurt us. And we try so hard to avoid those things that we essentially shrink the world that we live in, because we're starting to avoid so many places, so many people, so many experiences, that we don't get to, by blocking out the negativity, we don't get to enjoy the positivity either. And it becomes like an isolation method. And so I just wanted to make this is going to be a short little episode. And I know I say that sometimes, but this truly will be a short little episode today. Just reminding you to allow yourself to make mistakes, allow yourself to kind of go through the process of making these knee-jerk reactions and course corrections of just, hey, I made this mistake. Instead of just trying to avoid that, we're going to try something different. We're going to try something completely different. And by going out and experiencing and not isolating ourselves, we're going to hone in on what is actually right for us. There's a beautiful quote by Paulo Coelho. I don't know if you know about that author or not, but I highly recommend looking into some of his books. He says, when you find your path, you must not be afraid. You need to have sufficient courage to make mistakes. Disappointment, defeat, and despair are the tools that God uses to show us the way. And I think that perfectly relates to exactly what I'm thinking about and talking about right now, is just having the courage to make mistakes, being okay with being the fool, being okay with being an idiot, being okay with being uneducated, and going out and making those mistakes on purpose, putting yourself in a position saying, hey, I don't really know where to go. I don't really know the answer, but I'm just going to keep going in this journey. I'm just going to keep trying my best. And I think that that's kind of a beautiful method of kind of figuring out what is right for us. And then also being able to look back and not really, just give yourself the grace and forgive yourself for some of the mistakes that you've made, because like I said, these are the natural ways that we course correct throughout our life. Just kind of going from one extreme to the other until it gets less and less extreme, and we're somewhere in the middle. And sometimes along the way, when you're making these course corrections, you end up making even bigger mistakes. You end up putting yourself in a worse position. But that in and of itself is a lesson. That in and of itself is teaching you something. And I think that a lot of us, we beat ourselves up for not knowing what we knew while we were learning. And I think that a lot of us, we, in hindsight, can look back at the mistakes that we've made and we think, well, I should have known better. I should have known this. I should have known that. Or this person told me this and I didn't listen to them. But I think that if you're anything like me, sometimes, even right now, as you're hearing a message, you're hearing a lesson, and just hearing that message isn't enough. You have to truly learn something. You have to experience it for yourself. And so I think that it's important to remember that, you can't really beat yourself up for not knowing what you knew while you were learning it, because it's the not knowing and experiencing the pain of a mistake or the pain of defeat or anything like that is the way that you learn that lesson. And I think that that's important to remember. And so just to give yourself the grace of saying, like, chalk it up to that's the price of education. This is the school of real life. And I was just learning. And that's the mistake that I made, the consequences of the mistake I made are the price. That's the price of my education throughout this life. And that's why it's important to have some sort of a reflection practice, whether you meditate, whether you journal, whether you speak into your phone like I do and listen back to it, because that way you don't have to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. You just learn, say, hey, this was a factor, that was a factor, I could have handled this better. When I encountered this type of situation in the future, I'm going to react this way instead of that way. And if I still react this way, I'm going to try and figure out why. Why did I think that? Why did I behave that way? And kind of go from there and just kind of be able to give yourself the grace and the forgiveness. Okay, it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them and we don't repeat the same negative behavior. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of give you guys that little reminder and just give yourself the grace as I'm trying to do today. And, that can be the most difficult thing. I think that a lot of us, we can find it in our heart to forgive people we love when they make mistakes and say, oh, it's because they had this thing growing up or they didn't have, a proper role model. And we allow ourselves to forgive the people that we love so many times for some of the things that they do and repeated negative behavior. Yet we're so quick to beat ourselves up. And I think that has a use to look at yourself and reprimand yourself for some of the negative behaviors, but only if you're learning from your mistakes. If you're just going through a negative downward spiral and beating yourself up and telling yourself you're worthless and you're never going to be able to do anything right, then that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell yourself, hey, it's okay that I made this mistake because I'm going to learn from it and I'm not going to repeat it, that is a completely different conversation in your own brain and your own, for lack of a better term, self-talk. And so that's where I'm going to leave it today. I hope you guys have a good weekend as we're rolling into the weekend here. It's Thursday today, as I like to say, the Friday to Friday. We're about to finish up this week. I hope you're doing well. I hope you get the chance to spend some time with your loved ones and enjoy the weekend. Have some rest and recovery so we can get after it on Monday. I will see you guys then. Much love and peace out, you beautiful human beings. Bye.